Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sonic Comic Chaos. I'm your host, Silver1. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Ian Waffles. Ian, say hi.
Hey, I'm back. How's it going?
It's going good. And you know why it's going good? Because we've made it, folks. We've arrived. It is Flynn-era Archie Sonic time.
Yes. It's been how many years building up to this? We did Reboot, and then this, so is it 2?
We started Reboot, probably beginning of 2022. So, no, it's been a minute. I've graduated. I have a degree now. But
the kids are coming home for Christmas with the grandkids.
No.
A lot of stuff.
But before we can dive into the stories we have prepared for you today, which for those of you reading along at home are Birthday Bash, the introduction of Scourge, and Darkest Storm. We must return to our world famous segment. Ian Ace, read your comments. So we got a lot of them today because it's been since we last recorded, we've released the Sonic Prime discussion and we released the Sonic Adventure episode, and a lot of you had a lot of good stuff to say on those. So we'll just
thank you for commenting.
Go through them. From Two Blue Mouse, to give some context on my age, I was actually alive and self-aware before even the Dreamcast came out. Sonic was not my intro to video games, but he did come right after and became something of a cornerstone of my interest in the industry. My first Sonic game was the Genesis version of Sonic 1. Sonic 2 came out 2 days later. Then Spinball and Adventures Sonic the Hedgehog and Saturday AM. Preferred Adventures, though, because, you're wrong, but it's whatever. And then Sonic 3 and Knuckles came, and the rest is history. But Mania slightly dethroned it as my favorite Sonic game. Technically, my favorite 3D game is Generations, but every 3D game has never felt any better than merely okay, because even if I'm supposed to somehow ignore Sonic teams consistently abandoning or warping Sonic elements, I feel like worse versions of other games out there. I'm stuck with the franchise regardless, but if the bosses in Sonic end up continuing to be as hard as the Master King trial and the true final boss superstars, ... By the way, Ace, no offense, but regarding your view on Frontiers, if the two of us sat down to talk about how Sonic's world should be portrayed, we might get along as well as oil in a box of matches. Don't worry. Ian makes fun of me plenty about how much I like Frontiers, so you don't need to worry about that. Am I the oil or the box of matches in this scenario, though? Because depending on which one I am, I'm either setting the fire or being set on fire.
I was going to say, we both try to kill each other, so it's, it's mutual hatred love.
Yeah, that's fair. But, thank you for the comment.
Yeah, thank you.
I was not alive. I was actually born the year the Dreamcast died, and so I'd like to think I had some hand in it. Then from the missing bits 6375. My favorite Sonic game is Sonic Generations. I have nothing new to say that hasn't already been said about why the game is fun, except that I actually like Planet Wisp, Modern Act, and the 2D sections in the modern stages don't bother me. Also, I really like these podcasts. They're a lot of fun to listen to. Big fan of them. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
From Derpida. Thanks for reading my comment. I'll try to make this one shorter. So, thing one, Sonic the Comic spoilers, kind of, sorta, but you might enjoy what the writing team cooked with for Metal Sonic there. Very Ultron-esque vibes. Well, I wouldn't know because Ian won't read it.
Once we run out of, not Sonic the Comic things to read, maybe we'll get there.
Maybe. 2, Ace question today. Sonic Heroes is my favorite Sonic game. I love it, not blindingly so, as I despise the jank, broken special stages, and don't even get me started on 1/4 the game, the Chaotix gimmick stages. But gosh darn, it's a really fun, creative ride, flaws and all. I really love it. I would agree. Sonic Heroes is fun, and the Chaotix is not.
No, I like Sonic Heroes. It's one of those things where you kind of have to play it in chunks, because I think one playthrough of one of the stories can be a good time, but trying to beat it's just misery.
Yeah. Jalen Cunningham 2012. Yo, you reading off my comment from the other video scared me so hard. I was on the treadmill and then I heard my full name and I had to physically recollect myself. Well, hopefully you didn't have to do it again. Hopefully this doesn't become a pattern. But that sounds awesome that you guys might pick it back up in the future sometimes. I assume referring to .uw.
Yeah.
I know it's not a guaranteed thing, but there's definitely some good highs and some lows after the initial Surge arc stuff. We'll do it eventually. We'll do it eventually. I promise. From the Marvel Anime fan, 7082, Sonic 06 is my favorite Sonic game. That's what I'm talking about. This is one of the good ones right here. But anyway. Real Broccoli Hour. Sonic 3 Knuckles is my all-time favorite Sonic game, but I low-key have a soft spot for Sonic Lost World. That game is actually kind of fun, in my opinion. I agree. I actually think Lost World gets a little too much hate.
Have not played it.
It's fun. I will say I despise everything about it from like an aesthetic standpoint and a story standpoint. But like when you like the game itself, like actually playing the levels, it's fine. Like it's like a 6. You know?
Okay.
From Snap, this is from Sonic Prime. I can only recommend this to hardcore fans. Otherwise, this show is lackluster even for kids, aside from good animation and voice acting. Is this Sega's fault or Canada's fault? I like the idea of just blaming the entire country of Canada for Sonic Prime.
Well, you know what?
Um,
Canada's been sitting pretty for too long. We gotta bring them down for something.
Yeah. Still, I wouldn't say it's the worst show. Maybe person on the show confirmed that the ending is exactly what they intended. So on to the next one. From Melantart VA. Actually, this is a long time viewer of the channel. I remember them. They made something based on a really old video of mine, my old infinite Mephiles theory. So good to see you in the comments again. I personally enjoyed the show, even if season 3 felt like it dragged things out a bit too much. But I loved how Shadow was written across the series, and seeing the bond between the 3 roses was adorable. That's interesting because that's a consistent theme I've seen across even people who like Sonic Prime, that they thought season 3 was dragged out too much.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because I feel like had the show been like half the length, right? It's what, like 8 and it's like 23 episodes right now.
Yeah.
I think if you made that 12, I don't think we, like you and I, would have like loved it. But I think we would have come on here and been like, yeah, it was whatever. You know, the story was pretty bland, but yeah, I had some fun action scenes.
I think it's telling that, like you're pointing out, the people who did like it were also disappointed with the ending. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think here's the thing. The last time we talked about it, we came to the agreement that like, okay, it's probably not the worst Sonic show, but like, I don't think it would even be a discussion of if it was the worst Sonic show if it were like half the length. I think the only reason that's even a thing is because, like I said, it's dragged out.
Yeah, it would just be a thing where it's like, oh, it's not for me, but like I can see the value. Whereas like that's where just like stop, kill me, ended.
Yeah.
And then people who did like it were like, no, it's got some good stuff, and then they went, whoa. So like it kind of disappointed everyone, which is unfortunate because like again, despite our negative Nancy-ness, I was kind of disappointed that we were not alone in hating season 3. I was like, oh, that's kind of sad.
Yeah. Well, like, and that's the thing, like a perfect example would be like IDW. Like we've made IDW our punching bag, but like it's fine. You know, and I think like, you know, it's competently drawn. It's like story-wise, when Sonic isn't philosophizing, it's just kind of bland. You know, I've said before, it's like eating bread. Like I'm technically eating food, like I'm technically reading a comic. And I think Sonic Prime would be very similar if it were just, like I said, like half the length.
Yeah.
From Charmizard, it's depressing how many widely considered good Sonic things just fall apart under any standards. Maybe it's the ideas we value regardless of execution. I think that's interesting because, like, I think so. I think that, now, Grant, I think there are some things where, like, I would argue, like, there are some things I would argue are, like, genuinely quality products. But I think for a lot of things, Sonic fans, because there's so many disparate reasons people even like Sonic, if you find a thing you like in a Sonic product, you just kind of cling on to that as opposed to, like, you know, the whole product. Because, like, just because, again, there's so many disparate tastes, it's rare for a whole product to really appeal to everyone or even like a singular person.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
I mean, it's just I mean, Sonic just has a very obvious appeal, I would say. In the same way that I think like Pokemon would, but Pokemon is just also really, really good, or at least like, you know, like the stuff that people really love from Pokemon. And I think Sonic is just I think Sonic kind of brings out the artist in a lot of people, where you look at it and you go, here's the thing I love about it that's so striking, and then, you know, you find the one version of Sonic that really does appeal to all your tastes, and then like for the rest of the series, since Sonic is constantly changing, you're just going like, no, like here's the ways in which it could like be perfect, you know. And I just think like in a way that, I mean, that's why I think Sonic breeds so many creative people, in terms of like it really brings that out of people, because so many people like become artists because they want to draw Sonic, or, you know, love the Sonic world. You know, they struck gold with the aesthetic basically. So
yeah,
and the music also just means a lot to a lot of people. So
yeah, I would agree. And then lastly, from Solaris Fox SVP, they were told to cook a great show only to burn the kitchen down after a few minutes. I just found that funny.
I agree.
All right, well, let's do it to it. I I forgot to pull the comic up. God damn it! I do this every time. You'd think I would know by now. God damn it! Every time. Every time it's like, oh no, I didn't pull up my notes. Oh, I forgot to get the comments. Oh, I forgot to pull up the comment. Every time, then I have to fucking make more. I'm not editing this out. I'm not making more work for myself. This is staying in.
It just proves, that the Silver Ace, despite how godly he feels, how perfect he seems, everyone's mortal, everyone's human, and we all make mistakes. And I'm just happy to be in your presence, man.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. All right, what are we reading?
We're reading Archie, Sonic the Hedgehog number 160, Birthday Bash, Part 1, Giving and Receiving.
Indeed.
So the comic begins with, it's funny. Last episode, you talked about how Elias gave Sonic that medal basically as like an "I'm sorry, please don't be mad at us."
I was being for serious in the first scene.
The first sentence,
he's like, "Hey, don't be mad."
It's so good.
Well, okay, and here's the thing. So this is going to be bad for what's going forward. So let me analyze the first page. So I just want to say I do really like that Flynn, for his run, immediately builds on what came before, so that you immediately understand, like, because for one, this is the first time Tracy Yardley's been on, and it's also his debut. And obviously with a lot of the writers, I think it's very obvious when you're reading Carl Bollers or you're reading Ken Penders, right? Not only in their writing styles, which is to be expected, but also in the fact that they kind of like don't really touch each other's work, if that makes sense. A lot of the times. So, or like when they're doing these things, they're kind of like ignoring things, even if like certain characters are around. And so that can kind of make a lot of the older stuff feel disconnected. And like the gag era also had this where it would bounce from like silly and serious and stuff, even if we're the same writers. So I really appreciate that with Flynn. The first thing he does is make it clear to you, this is coming right off the heels of what came before. And just kind of like even just the fact that they're walking to a place, it just gives it that feeling of like, it's not like, it doesn't feel like, oh, and on another day of Sonic hanging out at home and eating chili dogs with his mom and dad, or like, oh, Sonic's in the middle of a mission somewhere. It feels like we're going somewhere, and like we're actually, it feels like, even though obviously time has passed, it feels like they could have literally just walked from the castle where they were at the end of the last issue, walked over here, and then had this party or whatever, in terms of like how it feels to read from one to the other. So just like right off the bat, I just appreciate, and we'll continue this as we go, I just appreciate how Flynn really genuinely seemed to want to build off what came before rather than discard it.
Yes, I agree. Also, what's interesting is, so we're seeing kind of like the fledgling era of both like Ian Flynn and Tracy Yardley.
Yeah,
because like some of these guys look a little funny.
they're more rubber hosey.
Yeah, that is a good way of putting it.
Sometimes they look quite jank. Like I know there's one shot where Sonic is putting his arms like on or his hands on Fiona's shoulders, and he just looks like he's fucking broken. But then I think like Shadow looks really like cute. Like I love how like he's got like more of a rounder body. And he's got like these little, again, like rubber hose arms. So I think it's like it's a style that he obviously pretty quickly grows out of, but I think it's really cute, like in this early stage. And I really enjoy it.
Oh, certainly. And there's like a lot of fun little details. Like there's, I'm looking through now, like there's one bit where like Amy's like protecting Sonic in the background. There's
go ahead.
There's like a bit where like it's kind of like not Bowlers. What's his name?
John Gray.
Yeah, John Gray, like John Gray-esque, where it's like there's
a lot of details.
Yeah, like background details. Like there's one where like there's like a 3-panel little bit where like Tails brings like Fiona a cup, and she's like pats him on the head of it. Like
he looks all happy.
Yeah.
There's a joke I really like. I don't know if you caught it. So when Shadow comes in and he's like, "Oh, don't worry, Blue Hedgehog, I cleaned your yard for you," which is an amazing line. Or "Happy birthday, I cleaned your yard for you." If you look, so all the characters are looking at him, but Tails, who is just like slightly back, is like squinting his eyes, like because he's Shadow. So he's like, "Oh, I can't make him out. Who is that?"
Yeah. That's great.
So it's just a bunch of little details like that are just fun and cute.
Yeah. So we haven't gotten past the first page. So Elias is going to then Sonic are walking up, and they're at the old Freedom Fighter hideout from all the way back in Sonic the Hedgehog number 1, in those earlier stories. which is just a cave more or less.
Yeah, it's just like a little underground hideout. But I actually kind of like that. One, obviously it's faithful, like it's like it. And then two, I don't know about you as a kid, but like that just was all my hideouts is like, oh, let's hide in this bush, or let's hide in this little like near the sand pit or whatever.
I didn't go outside as a kid.
Oh yeah. You don't have a bunch of siblings who are like around your age, right?
No.
Yeah, I did.
One,
So I had to entertain.
So, but yeah, so they go to the old Freedom Fire hideout, and they're having a surprise birthday party for Sonic. That's fun. And they're like, okay. And so Fiona, like, goes up to him because they're dating at this time. I'm gonna say it. I really like Fiona in these next few issues. And like, I'm kind of upset with how she turns out. Just like, I don't know, like, she's fun here. Like, this whole thing of like, she's a reformed criminal and she's kind of trying to like not get found out, but like, she still like, seemingly cares about the others and is trying to be useful. Like, I don't know, I found it endearing, and it's
what I like is one, I just think Yardley's, this is where Yardley's art style really helps, because if you remember, like a lot of times obviously you had like Ron Lim or you have Stephen Butler. So Stephen Butler, she just looks like a woman, and then she has a fox face, and then she's not very emotive. And then you have like Ron Lim, when he draws everyone, they're all kind of like not very emotive either, or if they are, it's like these weird, like kind of funny, janky things. So it kind of feels like this is one of the first times since like probably like in the Knuckles comic when she appeared, because Mandy Gallen did one, but you haven't read that. It kind of feels like now, because of Yardley, and he just puts so much love into the expressions that I don't know if you felt this way, but I felt like every character had that new spark of life in them, even the ones who I was familiar with.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So basically what I'm saying is I think that's probably why you're like, actually, like I kind of like Nice Fiona. Well, it's probably because Nice Fiona gets to actually like emote and like be expressive and like have like she feels like a person, because Yardley's like really injecting a lot of like care into everyone. So like even like the little like I remember like the little shot where she like grabs the keys and she's like crossing her fingers. She's like, oh, I hope this works. And just like the way she's like bending her head down and she's got like her gritted teeth. Like it just makes they just all feel fun,
Yeah, I would agree. So basically they're having a birthday party, and there's a fun scene that of course I needed to overanalyze, where Fiona's like, so how old are you exactly? And Sonic goes, and Rotor's like, well, if we take his trip into space into account, and Sonic goes like, let's just say I'm a teenager forever. And I think that's obviously a fun meta joke of like, yeah, because he will always be a teenager, because comic characters don't age. But
it basically also very in character, which is fun.
Yeah, but basically, so let's finish Rotor's sentence here. So if we take his trip into space into account, we need to remember that his 17th birthday happened a few months, let's say, before he got sent into space. Wait, did I say 17th or 16th?
That was his 16th birthday.
Yeah, I meant 16th. So while he was in space, if he was in space for exactly 1 year, which is what we're led to believe, that means his 17th birthday would have passed while he was in space. Meaning that this right here would be his 18th birthday.
Right, but the point is that it was a year on Mobius, but Sonic didn't feel that because there was time displacement. Like he was not gone for a year.
Sure, but what I'm saying is legally he's 18.
Legally, yes, yeah. I think that's also funny. So that does that mean Scourge is younger or the same age?
I mean,
because Scourge didn't go to space, is what I mean.
No, I feel I guess he'd be older.
Yeah, picking on your elders, Sonic. We're probably stupid. Someone's gonna explain it in the comments. But regardless,
well, no, because that's the thing. Because on the Archie Sonic wiki, I remember they always said his age was always listed as 17, and then in parentheses biologically 16. But that's not right because his 16th birthday already passed.
Yeah. The fools. The fewes, as Antoine would say. No, well, what I think is just funny about that too is that but this is his 17th birthday party, and we know this because we don't even have to worry about the birthdays, because in it's like 157, so like right close to this, Jules says to it's in the wedding arc. Jules says to Bernie, he's 16, Bernie. We can't be hovering over his shoulder, so he's 16, and so he turned 17. Technically, but he is also technically 18 legally. So there you go.
Regardless, are you happy that this is what you're choosing to do with your time, audience?
hope
We
you're
know
looking
the answer is
at the
yes,
screen.
but you know, we just figured we'd ask. And then the hooligans, or well, not the hooligans, Bean and Bark bust in, and I only just now realized that the hooligans weren't a thing before now.
Yeah, no, Flynn invented that.
That's insane.
Well, okay, that's incorrect. Flynn put it into the main series, but the idea, I would assume, because he's a Sonic nerd, is based on that. Which I don't know if this would have been current knowledge at the time, but in Sonic Heroes, there was a list of team ideas they had, and they just had a bunch of different ideas, and one of them was Fang, Bean, and Bark.
Yeah, that. Whoa.
There you go.
It's weird because it's one of those things because I've always assumed that like if anything I've always assumed that like the hooligans was like a remnant of an older Archie Sonic thing, but
Or
it's
like
just
Sonic the Fighters.
yeah, well obviously yes, because obviously they are literally remnants of Sonic the Fighters, but it's like no, they're like them being like a team wasn't a thing until well, and Bean and Bark weren't even in the book until now.
Yeah, they were only in Endgame as a visual reference drawn by Spaz. That was it. But yeah, as characters, no, this is where they're introduced, and I love that they just come in and they just decide we're gonna ruin Sonic's birthday, and it's just really fun. Like you immediately get obviously Bark, he doesn't talk, and then you have Bean, who's just a giant loudmouth, and he's doing all these little goofy songs or whatever. And I love that if you like look at Sonic's expression whenever the explosion happens, he looks like almost like excited. like his little gritted teeth almost looks like it's almost like, oh yeah, what's this? And then as soon as he sees them, he just is like, oh, this is fucking awesome. Thanks, Robotnik.
Yeah.
And I just love the context of this whole arc, which is this two-parter, which is just we're just fucking around. It's Sonic's birthday, and Eggman's gonna send birthday presents to ruin Sonic's day because, as we know, Bowler's already established that he is that petty. So, which I think is really fun.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, this is great.
Okay, okay, so funny thing, audience, is I've been clenching by biting my teeth and clenching my fists in fear because like when we got into this call, you know, Silver Ace, he never let on. He never told me like, do you like it? He's just like, yeah, you know, we're gonna talk about this. So I was like, oh shit, is it gonna be that I let him down? Did I lead him down the wrong path? Is he gonna be like, Ian, this is shit? I don't know what to tell you. This is any better. I want to go back to Benders. But no, he liked it, so that's good.
Well, I liked this. We'll get to the rest of it.
Oh yes.
But so yeah, then yeah, so they're fighting the hooligans. Like I said, there's like a lot of fun little stuff. Go read it, audience, or at least go look at it if you haven't. You can find it. I found it. But well, although don't look in the Sonic Saga series because it's not fucking in there for some reason. They didn't put this, and they didn't put the 25 years later story that we're covering probably next episode in there.
Yeah, it's weird.
The 25 years later one I can kind of get because it's a sequel to like a story that wasn't reprinted and relates to literally nothing that was going on. This doesn't make any sense though to not just reprint it.
Anyway,
yeah. So then we get the bit you were talking about where Fiona distracts Bean with some keys, throws them out the window. So then they have Bark captured, and then Shadow shows up and he's like, "Hey, I got Bean." And Shadow's adorable.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Blue Hedgehog. I cleaned your yard for you.
Yeah.
And he's just he's just like so apologetic. He's like, you know, I was an ass. I'm sorry.
He shows up, he says that. And meanwhile, I neglected to mention, while this has been going on, there's been a running through line that Rouge and Evil Sonic are attempting to steal the Master Emerald. But you know who's not going to let that happen?
My favorite character, Locke.
And so there's a subplot, there's kind of a B story of, not a B story, you know what I mean.
I mean, it is the B story of the main story.
Well, but usually when we refer to B stories here, we refer to like the one that happens like after the main story.
Yeah. Oh,
so
by the way,
there's
an amazing joke. I love that it's like you don't really think about it, which is when Rouge shows up to the Master Emerald, Evil Sonic says, shoot, Locke didn't capture you. And like the way he said that makes it clear that he thought like, oh, Rouge was going to get taken out and then I was just going to steal this shit. Like he hoped that she would get taken out.
Yeah, no, it's great. But so so they're fighting, and then Scourge hops on the Master Emerald and he tries to go super, but he's interrupted mid transformation. But oh, what happened to him? You probably know because I think I just called him Scourge accidentally, but I don't know. But so then Sonic and Shadow dick measuring contest. It's fun. And then being, well, actually, no, I shouldn't gloss over it because it really is fun. Like there is a it's weird that you can tell Flynn is not on board with this whole having Shadow work with Robotnik thing, but he's just like, I just need to, I have to deal with it until I can fix it.
Yeah, but I think what he does a really good job about is because you have the part where he's like, for now, just know that like we are enemies and this changes nothing. But like this is where like, ooh, art and storytelling. Like obviously when you look at him though, he's literally shaking Sonic's hand with like a smile on his face, and Sonic's like, yeah, okay, idiot. So like they're both like Sonic's aware, like, yeah, okay, Shadow, like you could say you're a big bad boy all you want, but we've seen time and time again you're good. And then Shadow's just like, yeah, I fucking hate you anyway. I love you, Sonic X Shadow. So and then literally the whole arc is that Eggman shows up and is like, here, I'm gonna kill Sonic, and they're like, Shadow, can you do your fucking job? But he's like, no, I like Sonic.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and again, you will recall that in the story that follows this, he's just not fucking in it because they're like,
for reasons we'll get into.
Yeah.
Which I mean, okay, so I guess since we know again they're not going to lean into the idea that Shadow's evil or whatever, would you have wanted that, or are you happy that it's like, no, let's just fucking get him to be Sonic's friend?
Oh no, I think here's the thing. Obviously, there's potential because there's potential.
Yeah, there's potential for everything. Yeah,
but like I think, well, first of all, like I think you reach a point where there's almost irreparable damage if like Eggman is sucking the life out of people in egg grapes, and meanwhile Shadow's just like, man, this is.
And Shadow's like,
a little messed up.
Yeah.
Like, but
I'll redeem myself later.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. So I think it's probably for the best for the character trajectory Shadow eventually goes on. Because like, I mean, this Archie Shadow is probably the most heroic Shadow, right?
He's also like one of the most like emotional. Yeah. So yeah, I would definitely say, well, he's the most good boy Shadow, I would say.
Here's the thing. It never made any fucking sense for him to be working with Eggman. Like the only reason it would have made sense is if you had done the amnesia thing, which they
already fucked. So
we're already fucked. So like at this point, like you might as well just like, again, just like put him in a closet whenever Eggman is like holocausting echidnas, and then until you can just fix him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, and also I just think that with Shadow, what people got to remember is this is also a monthly comic, and we already have 1 billion characters. So do we spend monthly issues? We only get 12 per year.
Yeah.
This isn't manga where we get like one every week, and then like they have like vacations every now and then. So you get you with manga you get like at least like 40 chapters a year, which could be a whole arc, and you get like all that stuff. We get 12 issues, and we got to color them and do all that shit. So would you want, obviously not, to spend like a bunch of time just on Shadow and exploring this one idea, or let's just fucking get a move on and get him to where he's a good guy, especially since I think the interactions of him, like even though like obviously Flynn has to keep him as a bad guy for now, I do think that does just make Shadow's interactions here more interesting. That the whole, like I said, it's not just Shadow's here and we're trying to make him, a little more friendly. It's like, no, he's working for the bad guy. Okay, got it, noted. They set that up, and then the bad guy says, Shadow, do your fucking job, and then he just doesn't do it. So there's actually like oh, Shadow, Shadow's a good person. Like he has this thing, and he's like, nah, fuck it, I like Sonic, So that makes it more interesting that he's just being a good boy. So Flynn kind of, like he just constantly does with Preboot, he just kind of takes those flaws and makes it work for him, which is really cool.
Yeah. But so Bean calls Eggman from the Freedom Fighters little computer.
He just teleports over there.
Yeah, and what I love is there's a bit where he's like balancing a bomb on the back of his hand.
And he's like, yeah, so I just called to tell you we lost. Sorry.
Yeah, I think, and I do think you're right about with Fiona, because like the bit where she's going like, Bean, go sit with Bark, like the way she's drawn and like the way
like they all come to life. It's really good.
So so then Eggman sends over a robot to fight Sonic, and who is it but the Croctobot?
Yeah, the iconic Croctobot. Ace, do you have any fucking clue who this is?
Okay. I mean, not okay. Wait. Crocbot was in Endgame, right?
I was gonna say you should remember him.
Okay, and Octobot. Hold on. Wait.
You've not seen him a single time in anything we've read. You might remember him from something you read on your own time, though.
Let me get the long box. All right. Hold on. Okay, I have the first volume of Sonic Select. If I'm not mistaken, there's like some dumbass story where Rotor makes Tails a submarine.
He's in Tails' Adventure. It's mini.
Yeah. And I wonder, I don't know. He might have been in. It doesn't matter. He was in the miniseries, and I think that the story in here that I'm remembering was a lead up to the miniseries. So maybe he's in this. I don't know.
So,
Doesn't matter.
But the main joke with them is that one, they're two separate robots, so Robotnik literally just slapped them on top of each other.
Yeah.
Two, my favorite joke is that so Crockbot, so he was in Endgame, and then during Sonic's like little world adventure, they went to Down Under, and he was it was like just his torso was still around, and he had mind controlled like the platypuses to like become an army or whatever. So they find him, and he's literally just like under a board in a house, and so he's just like, Sonic, I'm going to control the platypuses, and then like Sonic literally is not a joke, or it is a joke. He literally unplugs Croctobot from a wall. He's like, well, that takes care of that. And
That's amazing.
And so they take Crocbot with them, and they put him in like the plane. But then the plane gets stolen, and Sonic's like, "Oh shit! By the way, we have Crocbot in here. We can arrest him, or we can use him, or whatever." And then the plane gets stolen, and that's in the double digits. So he was just gone for all this time, and so basically now he's back, and he's just like, "It's me, Crocbot, your greatest enemy." And the comic's like, "I don't know who you fucking are," and they just murder him.
Yeah, and then I found the story. It's what's it called? Hold on. It's Tales in a Solo Story Submersible Rehearsal, and he just runs Octobot over with his submarine.
There you go.
And then he shows back up, and then he goes, "I'm gonna be in the Tales miniseries," and then all right.
But yeah. So I love Croctobot appearing. I just love all of his just fucking yelling, and it's just like over the top, like again, like the art where he's like, "It's me, Croctobot," and then Sonic's just like, "This is the funniest shit I've ever seen."
Yeah. But then what happened to evil Sonic? He's green.
He's big. He's mean green. Let's fucking go. He's scared.
Yeah.
And he looks awesome.
And I only just now realized this because I read the character bios for Scourge and the other character who will be appearing shortly, that apparently the scars on his chest are meant to be like a Roman numeral 2 because he's like the second Sonic.
Oh, that's awesome. And also, it's just cool that they're battle scars. Like, those would be gushing blood if not for him being healed by the Master Emerald.
Oh, yeah.
Because he got those from Luck. So,
and then do we want to do the Blaze stuff all in one go?
Let's just get that done because it's bad.
It's pretty bad.
So this is a leftover from just like obviously like the old writers. It looks bad, and the story is like you can like the moment you can tell this is not a Flynn story is when like the SWAT bots walk up to Blaze and they're like, "He's gonna be trouble," and she goes, "Who are you calling he?" And I'm like, oh my gosh, are we in like the fucking 90s? like girl power.
Yeah, I have no. What was she like? What was the? Was that what was the joke? Like, I don't
even think it was a joke. I think it was just supposed to be like, "Oh, you bet it, like you think it's a man, right? Because it's strong, but it's actually a girl. Let's fucking go!" Like it's just the most like baby nothing writing ever. It's so bad.
Yeah. No, and I will say,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, there was. Okay, this is a piece of Sonic knowledge I'm not proud that I know, and so I'm going. No. But so around the time 06 was coming out, which was obviously this, they had like character bios for all the characters, and they had English bios and they had Japanese bios, obviously because the game was released, it's in Japan as well. And for some reason, in the Japanese bio for Blaze, they make a point to say that she's embarrassed of having a flat chest. And so I was wondering if maybe Tenaya Del Rio knew about that and if that was the joke.
Maybe, but they're looking at her from the backside, so that doesn't even work.
No, it doesn't. No.
I don't think that's weird. It's no Sonic trivia. Anyway,
look, it's just. Anyway, point is that there's a horrifying image of Eggman with like some floating hands above him with not the Soul Emeralds. These aren't the Soul Emeralds. Like, but they keep calling them the Soul Emeralds.
Yeah, but literally all it is just Blaze is here because she had a bad dream about Sonic, so she came here. She gets captured by SWAT bots because they go bonk, and then she gets captured. And then Sonic shows up because he's like, "Oh, someone was out there. I'll go save him." She attacks Sonic. Sonic defeats her by creating a vortex around her, and she can't breathe. And then she's like, "Wow, you're really pretty strong. Anyway, fuck you. I'll be in your nightmares." And then she leaves. And then Sonic's like, "Well, I sure hope I don't see her again." And that's it.
Yeah.
The art's really bad. Sometimes
really
it's janky in a funny way, but most of the time it's just like, yep, this like if the writing was like cringy funny, like some of like Pender's stuff, or like actually funny like Bowler's, then maybe it could have been like a funny little like remnant of the old stuff. But reading it, you're just like, yep, all right, we still gotta get rid of some of the cobwebs in the attic.
Yeah. Ugh. But I will say though, this is as good a time as any for me to talk about my Archie Blaze theory.
Okay.
So we see in Pirate Plunder Panic. That's the one. That Blaze's world is pretty much entirely unaffected by the reboot. Because she's going like, hey, I've been looking for the Soul Emeralds for the entire time I've been an Archie Sonic character, and it's led me to this point, and we're making clear references to the Shadow Saga and to Treasure Team Tango.
Yes.
So, in my headcanon, because I like to think, because it'll make me sad to think anything else, that when Sonic dropped the glowing orb and ruined everything, that like pre-boot still exists, but it exists like over there, you know, like in a little pocket over there. But I like to think that because the Soul World was unaffected, that they're both kind of still connected, the Soul World. And so Blaze will sometimes just run into like the pre-boot version of Sonic, and then she'll see like the reboot version of Sonic, and like it'll just be really confusing for her. She'll be like, wait, you're a werewolf? When did that? Like, and then like she'll like see like pre-boot Sally who's like dating Sonic, and then she'll see like reboot Sally who's in love with her computer. I think that's a fun idea. I don't know. But reboot's dead, so I don't have to wrestle with any of the implications of that, because like
Absolutely.
Ian, thoughts?
Then what happens?
Oh wait. Oh, who are these fucking weird robots? They look like the robots from was the movie just called Robots? You know, the early 2000s.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think it was called Robots. Yeah, these designs never come back again. They're just little helper robots or whatever.
Yeah, and then we get an off panel. We get a couple off panels. We get 4 off panels. Why is there 4?
I know, they go crazy. Yeah.
And they're all fine. The Sonic X comic was coming out at this time. Will we talk about that? No. Well, we'll talk about one issue of it much later.
Much later. Anyway.
But yeah. All right. Archie Sonic the Hedgehog number 161. Birthday Bash Part 2, The Birthday Boys. So how do we start, Ian?
I like that. I like that. Immediately you get this little like cross down the middle, and the joke is like a little parallel where it's like, oh man, it's my fucking birthday. You know, Robotnik got me 2 killer robots. The guy's all class. Also Shadow's here, and then like you have Scourge. It's like, oh, I got the power boost off the Master Emerald. One heck of a gift. Oh, and Rouge is here. So I just immediately kind of like paralleling the two, and I don't know, like just the writing. I don't know if you feel this, but like, doesn't it just feel like personality wise, like for the characters, just feel like a night and day from like IDW, where like everyone is just like sanded out. Whereas like in this, like everyone just kind of has like a bit of sass. Everyone kind of like is like, people can be a little bit of a jerk sometimes, or they can like just like talk like people, you know?
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, no, like you said, like everyone has that, like you said it perfectly. Everyone has a spark, like, and it's great. I don't know.
But then Croctobot shows up and he's like, "It's me, your favorite Sonic villain," and Sonic just fucking falls to the ground and laughing. And I guess he would have just been impaled because he thought it was so stupid. If Tails saved him, I'm sure he would have been fine. But it's just very funny that that the only reason Sonic is vulnerable is because like this is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen. I just love Crocbot's reaction to all this. It's great.
Yeah. A couple notes. First of all, the cover calls Scourge the Evil Hedgehog. And I wish that had been his thing. Like, because they obviously refer to him as like Scourge the Hedgehog like other times. I wish every time they said Scourge the Evil Hedgehog.
I love the cover too. The cover's so funny.
Oh, it's great.
it really like depicts his personality in like a way that's just so good, where he gets his own little his little circle, but like Shadow and Sonic are there as well. And he's just putting his hands on their face like, yeah, fucking nerds. And that's basically all he does this issue is he just bullies them.
Yeah. So there's that. And then one thing I think is interesting. So I heard on the Bumblecast recently, I heard a clip of Ian Flynn talking about how it was difficult for him to like get into writing Sonic the character because he didn't like Sonic. Him.
Yeah.
And I think because his thing was like Sonic's a bully, like Sonic's a jerk. Like, why would anyone like him? And I think this is kind of him trying to like balance that out with this scene of him, like almost getting killed by Croctobot just because he's like being a jerk.
Yeah, kind of to show that he has flaws, but like we're aware of that, and like and also you kind of have Scourge come in and kind of humble him a bit, which feels nice, you know, like you don't feel bad that Sonic's getting like bullied by Scourge. You're not like, oh wow, this Scourge guy, he's picking on my favorite character Sonic, because Sonic's kind of a dick too, so it's kind of funny, you know.
Yeah,
I think it's really funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But so they're fighting the Croctobot. So Fiona's like, hey, Bean, Bark, you should help. And they're like, no. And then they leave. But so then Scourge beats up Knuckles' dad. And
oh, by the way, speaking of characters that people don't like and Flynn's letting you know it.
Yeah.
The shit out of Locke.
One of the first things he does is Scourge.
Now that you've said it, I can't unsee it. It's so funny.
That's pretty well, beat up and almost kill.
Yeah, he would have fucking murdered him. Yeah, it's great. Well, and also, by the way, just like the paneling, we didn't get to talk about the paneling, but I really love that whenever Scourge attacks Locke, the panels get all shifty and jagged to like really sell that like these attacks matter, you know. So that's really cool. I also love that Scourge gets a unique bottom of his shoe pattern where he has these arrows that like point forward. So that's like unique from Sonic too. And I also love that when Scourge's glasses are detailed, like in his character bio, he has they're Sega branded sunglasses.
Oh, that's great.
So, and also just the way like just little panel of Scourge at the bottom. Try that again, old man. Like he just looks so fucking dumb.
Also, I just realized that Locke also has Lego shoes, but they're on his ankles.
Oh, that's cool.
It's odd that Rouge. Is this like the only bit of moral fiber Rouge shows in like the entirety of Archie?
Yes. Rouge is all over the place. We'll talk about it once we see more of her in other stories. Yeah. But Rouge is one of the only characters that's like her and Charmy that Flynn never really nails down. He nails down Rouge in like the one, like her last story where he like really gets her character in terms of who she is in Archie. Because if you remember in Archie, like she's literally like down there, like on the like under Angel Island, and she's like, oh, Angel Island's up there, and she's like, I'm gonna take the Master Emerald, which she knows will drop the island, for one, and two, if you remember, SA2 happened in this universe, and she does not give a shit that Shadow is around.
Yeah.
So Rouge is kind of just a prick, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, she's a villain. Like I would say she
is like a villain in this.
Yeah. So much so that I wonder if there were plans for this like Scourge Rouge thing to go a bit longer.
I have no clue. Flynn has said that with Rouge, he originally was told to lean into her being bad. And then as she's in Shadow Stories, they told her actually lean more into the idea of her being good. And then they told her actually we want her to be more bad, so that's why she's more bad in Treasure Team. And and unlike all the other characters, he was just never able to thread the needle and make it coherent. So
yeah. It's interesting that this is the time where they'd be telling him to make her bad, because this is 2006. Like
I know, it's weird, right?
Yeah, like if it were around even Sonic Heroes, that would make some amount of sense. But in 06, she's just a good guy. Like
yeah.
But anyway, so Scourge teleports them both out using Chaos Control. Have we ever seen Sonic use Chaos Control?
I believe maybe. No, actually, I don't think we have.
So we saw Scourge use it before Sonic. That's fun.
But I love the again, just Scourge's like little, like the way he looks, where he's like, spoil sport, fine, I've got a wuss to crush. Just the way Scourge talks is so funny, because he just like the way I always describe Scourge is like he's a living, like he is all the things we as kids thought were cool about ROCs, and he's in the comic strutting around with that amount of like the swagger of a teenage boy.
Yeah.
Just following my instincts, babe. Let's see if intuition pans out. Like, he's just so goofy looking.
It's great. But so he teleports in, and him and Sonic square off for a second before Croctobot grabs the three of them. They're like, do you just want to beat this guy up? Like,
and then they just murder him.
Yeah, just kill him.
It's a great page too, because you have he freaks out. He's like, Shadow, can you do your job? No.
Yeah. And so he just kills him.
Oh, by the way, there's some really good paneling here. If you go to the page before, where so the way the paneling set up audience is that you have Scourge on the right, and then Shadow and Sonic, and so it's like, oh, they're gonna fight, and then they're in the exact same positioning, but then like Croctobot grabs them, and so then you would flip the page, and he would bring them to the top. But it's just good like comedic paneling of like, yeah, let's fucking go, bam! It's like, wait a second, and then he yanks him off.
Yeah.
So it's just really, again, like the paneling, and like it just really feels alive, which I love.
Yeah. But so they beat Croctobot, so then it's time for Sonic and Scourge to fight. And so did the Master Emerald like do anything?
It made him stronger.
Like permanently?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's just permanently stronger. Because that's why
Scourge
he's like permanently green too.
So Scourge is stronger than Sonic, like officially.
At least for now he is. And actually going forward, they're pretty consistent that usually if Sonic and Scourge are like clashing, that Scourge usually can knock him down basically. Which is pretty good. I mean, again, obviously they're still clashing. Like if you look here, like they're still hitting each other pretty equally. Scourge is just slightly stronger. And the reason you have to do that, right, is if you remember the last time Sonic and Scourge fought, Evil Sonic was like, oh, well, I'm losing. Time to throw rocks. So, like, this is very necessary to, like, make Scourge feel like a viable threat. Because if he just turned green, then, like, why is he stronger, right? Or, like, why can he keep up with Sonic and he's now competent, you know? So you have, like, a reason in universe for that. And so I do like that they just go, well, the Master Emerald did it. And then, like, Scourge is just kind of weird. Like, it's just, like, it weirdly interacted with him because he's not from this world. Which I think is fun. Like, I think that's a good use of, like, it being a soft power system, you know?
Yeah, so it's like it's more leveled the playing field, if anything.
Yes, because Evil Sonic was, to give you an example of how weak Evil Sonic is. There is a story where Evil Sonic shows up and Antoine beats him by karate chopping him.
Yeah,
in one shot. So
that happened.
So he's not very strong.
Yeah, but so then basically Evil Sonic he knocks Scourge, whatever. I don't want to dead name him. Scourge knocks down Sonic, and Shadow's like, "Hey, can I talk to you for a sec?"
He goes, no. Fuck you.
I'm curious. He goes, "Enough. I have a question." What was the question?
He was curious about chaos control, because if you remember when he showed, he was like, "Is that chaos control?" So he was like curious about like, who are you, basically, like what the fuck's going on.
Well, Sonic can use chaos control. And this guy's just Sonic but green. That's
he's far away.
But so,
by the way, real quick, think about the dialogue. I just like this exchange. Again, it just feels like characters have so much more personality, which is Evil Sonic, Anti-Sonic, old news. The new hotness is a real Scourge. And then Sonic goes, some fur dye and a new jacket make you tough. A sampling of the Master Emerald makes all the difference. Dude, Knuckles won't like that. It's like, I don't know. I just love it. I love it just like just how casual Sonic is and how he's just always ready to like beat someone up.
Yeah, it's great. But so the three of them fight. And there's a cool bit where basically so Sonic, Shadow, and Scourge all collide in the air, and Scourge is able to like knock them back. But he goes like he's clearly like,
yeah, like he basically is in the same damage they are, but he has to like be like, whoa, oh, I totally did it.
Yeah, and
then obviously like he ends up like the reason it's so funny too is that like he's just clashing with them and he's just being like, yeah, fuck you, my dick's so big. But then and literally Rouge says like, you've assured your masculinity, good for you. So just like, yeah, your dick measuring contest. But then I love that he's just like, yeah, I'll fucking fight both of you, whip both your dicks out, idiots. And then they charge him and he starts freaking out.
He is that guy who's like, oh, you want to go? Hold me back, bros. Hold me back. Like, why aren't you holding me back?
Hold me back. Yeah, and then I love again, like he, he survives the clash or whatever. He's like, "Oh, I'm fine," but then he has to fucking run away, and Shadow just blitzes after him, and he's like in this like dark aura, like I'm gonna fucking kill that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, Scourge, you mentioned it in one of your videos, but I agree. Scourge does strike that balance between like being like over the top, try hard, like trying too hard to be cool and actually still being kind of cool.
And actually being cool.
Yeah.
He's so funny.
I will say, does he wear his sunglasses this much going forward? Because he's had them like on his face the entire time, and I'm used to when Sonic characters have sunglasses, they're just like permanently attached to their eyebrows.
I think he uses it from time to time. Like he'll like put them down and then like lift them up and stuff. But yeah, that is a good point. I do like that he actually uses them. Although to be fair, they're oh no, they are down. Yeah, that's great. I also love, by the way, that the way he starts the fight is that like they kill Crockbot and like Sonic and Shadow are like enjoying their victory, and you just see little Scourge back there like, now then.
Yeah.
He's so funny. Again, these two issues, no matter like above anything else, like compare like when we were laughing at like the bad stuff of like, oh, it's kind of cringe and silly, to like this where we're just like, this is like, it's just a joy to read,
Yeah. But so then Scourge is like, well, Scourge and Rouge are like, well, time to bail. No, I am in over my head. And so they run off, and you get a cute panel of Fiona and Sonic, which again, I don't ship it, but
I ship it.
But but cute things are cute. I can acknowledge it.
Yeah, they all look adorable.
Yeah, and then they run off, and a mysterious portal opens and whisks.
And they meet Tom Wachowski.
Okay. We've never talked about this, but Ian, did you feel the same way when you saw that awful first Sonic movie trailer where you're like, this looks really terrible, but they do have the Archie Sonic warp ring, so I guess that's something.
I mean, I did think that, although obviously the warp ring's teleporting you to other dimensions is, from the games, but I'm trying to remember what, like, if it was the Archie comics that established that they like the idea of them just kind of like taking you to like, you like, eventually it just gets to the point where like you just walk through and like you're just kind of there rather than taking you to like a special place,
Yeah.
So I do wonder if that was Archie who did that first, but either way, yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh my gosh, it's the warp ring.
Yeah. Why does Sonic have awful human teeth? But anyway, anyway, but yeah, so then Sonic's like, hey, you know what? Everything worked out. No one got hurt.
Except for me, and I think that's hot. So,
Ian. And then who was it who whisked Scourge and Rouge away other than the most evil man to have ever lived? He's
and
back.
Scourge is like, that's really hot. So then we're gonna work together.
God damn it. But yeah, so Finitivis is back, and he's got plans.
But now we have to weather the coming storm, the darkest storm, if you may will. And yeah, birthday bash. So what did you think?
It's fun. It's really cool.
Yeah.
God, why are we doing Darkest Storm? We are already spent an hour on Birthday Bash. What are we thinking?
Well, before we get into Darkest Storm, then let's because we're going issue by issue. What did you think of Darkest Storm? I would assume you were very confused.
It's, to quote George Lucas, it's so dense. Every single scene has so many things going on.
It definitely does. So this is the one arc that starting post space does not prepare you for, because this arc, I think Flynn counted up, there were 34 plot lines ended in this one arc that are from the whole comic. So this is like the arc, and it makes sense that he wanted to get this out of the way. This is the arc that is completely unfriendly to anyone who has not read the entire comic, because all of it is hinged on you knowing everything. It pulls from just everything, and so like if you're someone who doesn't know that, it's just a bunch of really, really pretty nonsense.
Yeah,
because it is really gorgeous. I think this arc looks like incredible. Just like all the like the weird like faces and like how like the panels will flow into each other, the use of paneling, and like they'll like explode the panels or they're stretch and squash and all that stuff. The way the characters are designed and stuff, they're all like jagged and stuff. It looks really good. But if you don't know what's going on, just like, and then like the fucking spider people attack, and the horseman does something, and then this guy shows up.
Yeah.
So,
So
I mean, here's the thing. So you obviously, if we go scene by scene, I could talk about all of that, and I don't want to do that to you because we will actually be here for 2 hours. So, would you be more happy if we just do a brief overview of, like, if I explain what happens, and then we can just kind of not go page by page, but like go through your notes of like different thoughts you had? Because otherwise, again, I will just have something to say for everything, and you don't know what most of the stuff means, so it'll just be like, oh, well, that's needy and that's interesting. So,
yeah, we can do that.
okay. So the Darkest Storm, for people who don't know, is basically we are dealing with a character named Anonymous, who was set up in the old arc, the old stuff. Who Eggman is like chasing after. He's trying to figure out who he is. He sent like Robot Sleuth Doggy Dog, which is badass, and he's trying to figure out who this person is. And so what's happening is basically that Anonymous is basically going to make it so that all of Sonic's like biggest threats, which would include a bunch of supervillains, a bunch of godlike weapons and concepts and stuff, all of those things are removed so that he can become the ultimate villain. And basically what this arc is basically it brings across all of the magical elements of the Sonic world, which are like Mammoth Mogul, the Sword of Acorns, the Crown, the Ancient Walkers. It brings about all the kind of like weird stuff like the robot spiders, or the spider ninjas. And it brings back a bunch of villains like Ixis Nagus and all these things. So it's basically like a science and like technology story, where all these things clash, and then Sonic is like trapped in the middle. And so all these things clash in one giant fucking war, and by the end of it, Anonymous is able to basically control every single thing, like manipulate all the events to work out in the way where Eggman can swoop in and capture all these godlike beings and use them for power. And then by the end of it, it's then revealed that Anonymous is Adam. So Eggman's like robot son. That is who Anonymous is. It was actually him all along. And we'll get more into that whenever we get more into Adam doing more things, going over like his character and his motivations. But that's kind of the premise. And everything in between, like you said, every single page is like so dense with information and like just things happening constantly. Like it is so much stuff happening. So for you reading this, what were your feelings?
Well, this is an interesting story for me because this is the first story collected in the Sonic Saga series. So I'd read this before.
Okay.
I'd only read it once. Every other Sonic Saga series story, I've read at least 2-3 times. Probably typically more.
Yeah.
This one I'd never gone back to first of all, just because again, at that time, I wasn't used to seeing the characters drawn like this.
Yeah.
Because like you look at all the other Sonic Saga stories,
it's like
it's all Yardley, more or less. And so this one was just like, it's just weird. Like again, now looking back on it, especially since I've seen more Archie stuff, I can be like, yeah, it's good. Like there's a lot of
kind of like John Gray, but a bit more jagged.
Yeah, there's a lot of really like baller shots in here. Like I enjoy the art. But again, at the time it was just like it was like weird and off model, and I didn't much care for it.
Filled with a bunch of characters you don't know.
Yeah, and just a bunch of shit happening. Like just so much. Like I don't think at the time I would have properly been able to say it. And also again, because like it's also weird because we already did the Mammoth Mogul plot. It's done. He's in the Emerald. It's over. What are you doing? Like, and that horse has a mustache. But
thing that makes Mogul so cool is so obviously he's a joke character. He fucking sucks. And so I love that this story establishes, because obviously Flynn wants to use Mogul because he's a cool character and concept. So what he does to make Mogul like threatening is that he murders God. And it's revealed that God is the reason he sucks. He was cursed to be an idiot. So the idea that when he first became a god, which would have been back during like the double digits, he like used his power to like attack them. And then you wouldn't know this because you haven't read these older issues, but there's an issue where Merlin and Aether, who are like Merlin the Wizard, who's the Tails' uncle, who is named Merlin the fucking Wizard, and then Aether, who is Knuckles' grandfather, one of his great grandfathers. They're talking, and they're like, "Oh, we need the Chosen One And he's like, why? He's like, because the ancient walkers are fucking dying. Ah! And then that it's literally never mentioned again. So 60 issues later, which again, that's years, right? Flynn uses that and goes, oh, the reason they're dying is because Mammoth Mogul attacked them. And so because they cursed him, you know, they were like, we're fucking fine. But then Mogul attacked them. And so once they die, he is released. And now he's this fucking badass god who has like the sword and crown of acorns. And he looks so cool when he's like standing over all the army. But then because Sir Connery, who existed in one issue, in issue 42, and the joke is that he's Sean Connery about a horse,
That's the joke?
Yes. He shows up and he's just like, yeah, remember in my story when that nobody liked because it's just a dumb fucking B story that who cares, where he said, yeah, I'm hunting evil sorcerers so I can protect the walkers. Well, he's back now. And so he is the last remnant of the ancient walkers fighting a holy war as the last guardian of light so that he can destroy the corrupted god particles that Mammoth Mogul stole. And it's fucking awesome. And then he dies.
Yeah.
So like all this stuff is happening, but if you don't know any of that stuff, if you haven't read all this comic, you're just like, what is going on?
Yeah, no, it's a lot. Even if you have read it, it's a lot. Like,
yeah, but it's awesome if you do know it.
it's some of it's awesome. Some of it is awesome.
What did you dislike?
It's a lot of talking. There's so much talking. And like the ancient walk. Why did we have to kill the ancient walkers? Did Flynn just not like them? Why?
We killed the ancient walkers, one, because they're dying. And that was set up, so we got to pay that off. Two, because they're Deus Ex Machinas who have consistently ruined the stories by just saving our heroes. So get rid of them.
But Aurora.
That was kind of the point of this arc, is to just get rid of a bunch of like the godly beings and like godly weapons.
And a horseman.
And the horseman.
Which I will say, okay, to Flynn's credit, I've said this before, I'll say it again. He cleans house in a very respectful way. He doesn't go like, this old shit is dumb and I'm getting rid of it. Yeah,
he gives it a bombastic send-off that it did not deserve.
Yeah. Like the horseman has there's a full like splash page of the horse like standing there like a badass with the sword, and then he has a whole like big speech as he like sacrifices himself to purify the sword. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, or like Mammoth Mogul gets a whole page where he like pulls out the sword and he's got an army and sleuth doggy dogs down there, and he's like, now then, gentlemen, who's up for some revenge? And you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Also, Knack the Weasel food poisoned his gang, and that's kind of cool.
That's fun.
And then there's a scene where Eggman, this is why Shadow can't be here. There's a scene where Eggman is explaining how all those echidnas he caught in Return to Angel Island, he is not only like killing them, but he's using their lifeless dead bodies to put poison inside so he could suck energy out of like a corrupted zone. And M is like, isn't there like a easier way you could do these? Yeah, but like that wouldn't be fucking fun. Yeah. And he's a monster. And then I really love that this whole arc is like a bunch of like these like overpowered, like you said, just talking gods. And then Eggman shows up. He's like, hey, fuck you. He just destroys them.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
And what's cool about it, right, is it's not just like, oh, Eggman wins because he has like a fucking weapon that can do it. No, if you remember, this is what he used in Return to Angel Island to capture everybody. So this isn't even like Flynn came up with a random thing like a teleporter beam. No, he's using something from the old story. So it doesn't just, so it feels like, yeah, this is the reason Eggman's awesome, because he can just fucking zap your ass and now you're a battery, idiot. So and it's awesome. So, yeah. But if you don't know any of this stuff, all the talking doesn't feel very validating, and it just kind of feels like, all right, we're just fucking yelling at each other and getting a bunch of info. But for someone like me who's read all this stuff, it is really rewarding for like just every single line to have like weight and meaning. It's like, oh wait, it's this thing. And so actually this would be something I would ask you. So for you, right, there's Sonic Frontiers, right? And one of the things people really like about that game is that there's a bunch of callbacks that kind of allow the older stuff to be like relevant. It's like, oh, like Tangle exists, or like Sonic Riders is like canon and stuff. Would you say that Darkest Storm handles giving credit and value to things you've never fucking heard of better than Frontiers to things you have heard of?
I mean, it better than, hey, you know that thing that exists?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, we're not just talking about stuff. We're actually like having cool imagery and things.
I mean, to be fair, they're very different. They're serving very different purposes. But
Yeah, one's trying to be a good and cool, and the other's trying to bore you and put you to sleep.
Ian, God damn it. But I forgot about the Spider Ninjas. I'm just kind of scrolling through this first issue. They're Spider Ninjas. These are Nagus's guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
The story with them is that their mom was working for him, and then he got captured, and then she had babies and died of radiation poison. It's not a joke. And then her babies were born, and they have memory DNA, which makes it to where like they remember, like they have like internal instincts to like serve Nagus and like get the sword that they stole in the old stories. So that's why they're working for him, because their mom's genetic memory brainwashed them into working.
So the radioactive spiders.
They are not radioactive, no.
So anyway, what? So should we just okay? So okay, wait. And the crown is magic, and the sword is magic. Was the crown always magic? Did we know the crown was magic?
Yeah, it was always magic.
Has it? So
it can like
the crown
stuff.
They have the crown. The crown's magic. They haven't thought to use it for magic purposes. And so,
well, they don't know how to use it because it's like magic.
Surely someone here knows some magic, right?
Merlin the Wizard does. Well, he's fucking gone.
I bet Knuckles could use it. Give it to Knuckles. See
what
happens.
Knuckles didn't have his powers.
Knuckles has his powers now.
He does. I don't know if he knows how to use them.
Anyway.
Oh yeah. What did you think? So you have the pages up. Cool visual parallel because James Fry does crazy shit. And he's the guy who drew this. So if you look at the Sir Connery page, it is a shot of like him to the left, and he's like a full page, and he has like the golden orange light, and then the side is like blue and like a bunch of different panels. Now, if you go a bunch of pages next, Elias, when he takes up the sword, it is gold and orange on the left side, and it's a full splash there. And then on the right side is blue and like a bunch of panels. So it's a parallel to that of him.
Are you referring to the last issue of this?
Yeah, the last issue.
I did not have that pulled up yet. Give me 1 second.
Oh, sorry.
We're referring to. It's pretty early on where we get the full page of the Horseman.
Yeah, and then if you go to the like near the end of that story, they do the exact same paneling and coloring for Elias when he takes up his sword.
God, there's like a 7-page ad for fucking like Bionica or something. Oh yeah, that's cool.
So that's cool. Also, if you go to the second issue, whenever Mammoth Mogul awakens, this is like a badass entrance. So he comes in and like everyone's like attacking him. And he's got this little force field, and he doesn't say anything. And if you notice, when he does his little blast, the panels warp because even the panels can't contain his power, and they start to ripple, and then they go back to normal whenever he stops the attack.
Oh, that's cool.
So, like that's what I mean when I say like it's dense. It's like no, it really is dense.
Yeah.
Even the covers. So you notice how like obviously they all come together to make one image.
Yes.
But so you know how they have like those little like that little like spike on it. Well, for years I just look at that and I was just like, oh yeah, like it's just like a cool little detail. Now it makes sense because the person in charge of all this stuff is Anonymous, who is Adam, who is a computer. So those are like the things for like when he talks.
Oh yeah.
So like the idea is that you're looking at all these different things, but the one who is like putting it all in a box, the one who's like getting it all in these little images is Adam, who's controlling the situation. And the cool thing about Adam is that he is trying to literally delete as many plot points as possible. Who's that like? Ian? So like that's what's really cool, but like that's just what's really clever about the arc is that Flynn found an in-universe way to have a checklist of like plot points he wanted to get rid of. And he put that into a story and made a character out of it who would have that amount of knowledge because they're an evil supercomputer. It's genius.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I totally I knew this one was going to be like very hard for you to get through. And I'm just that makes perfect sense. But I just wanted to go through and kind of explain a lot of the pros as someone who has read all this stuff and some of the pros that you might not have noticed, like a lot of the art stuff. So
well, that's the thing. It's like if I were to just look through this, like, yeah, it's cool. Like, there's a lot of cool shit in here. It's just there's a lot of exposition and a lot of like, it's like I said, it's dense. Like, yeah, and like especially when you're like reading it, like I don't know, it's cool. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. Like, there's Well, here I'll try and be a little more chronological. So we talked about the first issue. They get the emerald. They find the crown. The crown is the sword. That you become super cool if you get both of them. Yeah, and Mogul breaks out. Let's talk about fucking Snively here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want to do the B stories?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
this
this
cool.
motherfucker. So there's a great bit where he's like, "What am I doing?" Like,
yeah, because what is he doing? What were the writers doing with him?
also, he's fixing a Sega Genesis, which is fun.
Yeah,
But
this is his job.
yeah. Well, because the thing is, right? Like I said, like when I read this, it was relatively early on. I'd read like Endgame and like some stuff from after Endgame, but like for me, like a lot of my knowledge of like Archie Sonic stuff was like Sad AM. And so I get to this, and I'm like, Snively's a good guy now. What? And I had assumed there was like a whole big lead up.
Good reason for it.
Snively being a good guy. No, he's just like I guess he's like our pet now. I guess we'll just keep him. Like
yeah.
But so he's working. He's like, what am I doing? But he's like, well, Hope's here, and I guess I like Hope. Did he like Hope? Was Hope a thing? Like,
well, no. That I think that's the idea. Is supposed to be like, because so to be clear, Snively took part in like murdering her dad, which I mean is technically his dad, but and was totally complicit in like the murder of her grandma too. So like I think the idea is that since Snively is so all over the place, we're going to basically just use this story to like set up some interesting things about him. And I do like this one that like in this moment where he's just kind of like, I don't even know what I'm fucking doing with my life. Obviously there's been like a year time skip too since like all that stuff. So I actually do think it's interesting for his character, even if like it completely comes out of nowhere. There was no setup for this. That he's like, you know what? I don't know. Like fucking there's hope. That's kind of cool. And I like this idea of like the point of the story basically is that Eggman shows up and he's like, hey, come on back. Because like, why not? I'm going to kill everybody and you'll die too. But you know what? Like you've always been the henchman. So I'm going to take you back. Snively goes to Hope. And he has like this little moment where he's trying to like basically convince her to like leave and not die. And I just think that's just good for his character, even if like, again, like there's no setup for this. But I think the amount of time and how much Snively's character already is all over the place that I'm fine with like Flynn just inserting this into the story. Because I just think it makes Snively way more interesting.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll get to that in a second. But before I do, I should say this teleport effect on Robotnik. So Robotnik teleports in, right? Yeah. And he's like, hey, come back to Robotropolis. Shit's about to go down. I really like the teleport effect because it's consistent throughout like everything. How like you're basically like disassembled and reassembled piece by piece. Which I think that's cool. But he's like, all right, you coming? And so I always remembered this because again, like I remember liking this scene, but again, I think it was part of that Darkest Storm trade paperback, so I only read it like once or twice. So I always remembered it as him going to her and being like, get the fuck out of Dodge. Like get out. Like go away. He doesn't really do that. He's basically like, hey, it'd probably be a good idea, but like, whatever. So like, basically what I'm saying is he had no real assurance because he's telling this child, he's like, hey, like 10-year-old, just go away, go without any adults, just fly this plane away to like the United Federation or whatever. Like, just go. And so he has no assurance that when Robotnik comes and burns this place down, that Hope will have actually listened to him.
Yeah. Well, and if anything, I think that's actually the way Flynn kind of smooths over it, where it's like, yeah, he cares, but he only cares insofar of like, hey, take the hint or don't. Because then like whenever he gets to the end, he's just like, yeah, that'll work. So I actually think it like just makes Snively like even more despicable in some ways of like he cares enough to be like, you know what? Yeah, that would suck if she died. So like, figure it out, hopefully. But I'm gonna go be evil, So if anything, I actually think that makes his character like it kind of transitions it a lot better. Because I mean, going forward, if you think like he's gonna be like, oh, I fucking love Hope, she's great. He's constantly kind of having this balancing act of using her for his own like sense of like feeling good about himself, So I think that's good that Flynn kept it to where it's not like pure, if that makes any sense, which is cool.
Yeah.
He kind of on a whim.
Yeah.
A couple more things. The art's really good, and Hope's very cute.
The art is good. Yeah, a couple things. Is this the first time we've seen Snively's like green Eggman outfit?
Yes.
That's
really
good. I like that outfit.
Yeah, it's a good way of like making him actually feel like fit the aesthetic of Eggman, like his modern stuff.
Well, because like, is this the first time we've seen like the Egg Fleet?
No, the Egg Fleet is like the Egg Fleet's in Darkest Storm, obviously, and then it's in Return to Angel Island.
It's in Return to Angel Island. Okay.
Just bits and pieces, like you see like some airships or whatever. This is the first time it's like focused on.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because like it's interesting all the Heroes stuff we see in this, because it makes you realize, oh yeah, Heroes came out like 2 years before this.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that like you see in real time like them bringing in those game elements.
Yeah. So I think that's neat. And also, it's just kind of wild that Robotnik just like bombs into Knothole. Like he could just do this.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's his point later where he's like, guys, I could just kill you at any time. And if you remember, he's literally spying on them 24/7 because he has Adam inside of all their communications. So like when he says like, dude, guys, I'm just doing this because it's a game. I like that they prove this when he can literally just go, all right, type in Knothole's location. Boop. All right, I'm here now.
Yeah.
Like if he wanted to, he could have just had a bomb, brought it in, boop, and then left. But he wants it to be a spectacle. He wants it to be a game. And I love that Flynn is already seeding that in the story.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also like that's how he explains like the logical inconsistencies of
obviously.
Because like presumably that was not the plan the whole time. Like
Robotnik,
no,
of course not. No,
genuinely trying to kill them and just genuinely like failing and losing
somehow.
Yeah, and so I like Flynn going like, and the way he fixes it is with new Momotropolis, like giving them a home that Robotnik can't just like get into at any time.
Yeah, and then making it to where Eggman actually looks cool because he does beat, which we're not there yet, but he does beat Sonic, and Sonic never beats him in that robot. Like Eggman definitively wins. Done. He won that fight, and he destroys their home. Like their home is gone, and that's their home that they've been in for the entire series. So it genuinely feels like, oh no, he really was just toying with us. And that makes sense for this Robotnik because he's Robo Robotnik. He's already won on his planet. So so like of course he's just fucking around, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
But so then Naugus looks like a bat, or not a bat, like a vampire. Like
he does. He looks very cool.
He looks cool. But so there's a big fight between Mogul and Naugus because they are like they both want, again, if you get the sword and the crown, you become like super duper powerful, and they both want to be super duper powerful. And I love there's a bit where Knack breaks out of jail just by like squeezing through the bars, and he says like like any prison could hold me. It's like, that's not clever. You're not clever. You've just like
he's like, I'm so fucking good at this.
Yeah. But so then there's like a really awesome panel where like the freedom fighters are all standing on top of a cliff, and they're like gonna come down and beat their asses. And then there's like a
whole page of them all fighting.
A full page of them all fighting. That's really cool. And then Eggman kills M. Well, no, more accurately, has M kill herself.
Yeah. And then there's a whole joke about removing her dead body.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah. A multi-panel joke of Adam being like, I've summoned the shuttle. Shuttle's cleaning up her remains. Shuttle is left with her remains. Like
it like incinerates it.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, Adam, I'm just brainstorming.
Yeah. Can someone please overlay Sage's sad "I Love You" song from the end of Frontiers with Eggman telling M to kill herself?
And it's all their happy memories, like in Frontiers, where they're standing around getting yelled at.
Oh, jeez. But so then, but yeah, so then Eggman's like, I guess I'll go do some shit. And then,
I'll give my one criticism of this arc, which is that so Flynn, like you said, he's very respectful to all the stuff. This is the one thing that I don't think he's respectful to, and I feel bad about, which is M. M never gets to be cool like ever after her introduction, and I do think it sucks that she just gets taken out and there's no anything to it. She's just kind of gone. M is the only character who I feel like Flynn just kind of like, I don't want this character. So I will criticize this arc for that I feel like she got the short end of the stick in terms of like her story ending. There's nothing to it, you know. She dies. So, right. So yeah, that's my biggest complaint with this arc is that out of the like 34 things he did really well, there's like one of them that I'm like, you could have tried a little harder with that one, I think.
All right. And what about how do you feel about Naugus? How basically it ends with Naugus being like, "Oh my god, Mogul, you're actually super cool and I love you." Like,
That's fine because later Nagus is like the main villain and he fucking hates Mogul. So I'm fine with in terms of like if I was reading this at the time, I might have thought like, well, shit, I like Nagus. I wish he did more stuff. But because I know he's literally going to be like one of the main villains of the entire comic, I don't care. I think it actually works quite well, and it's good because it consolidates all the magic lore that was already like a mess. So I like it for that.
Yeah. Fair enough. I was curious when you said like the one character. Here's the thing. Maybe it says something about the fact that like I didn't give enough of a shit about M to even realize that he'd done that. So
yeah.
like, you know.
Well, and Nagus at least like the reason he does it is like one, he puts up a fight, and then he's like they actually have like a lore reason for him to do it of like, holy shit, you're like the guy who invented magic. That's awesome. you know. So like at least it's not coming from a place of like Nagus, you're so fucking weak. Well, work for me. He's like, okay, fine. No, instead he's like, wait a sec. You're like the boss. Fuck yeah, dude. So yeah. And they all
then
Eggman.
Jet the Hawk shows up.
Yeah, so we could talk about this two-parter because actually some interesting things to talk about with this too. One, it looks gorgeous that
it's so good.
Decided to make it look exactly like the intro of Sonic Riders.
Yeah. Which is that okay? Is that like a? I think obviously Tracy Yardley was attempting to like purposely attempting to emulate that style, but like I have to assume a lot of that comes down to like the colorist and like the.
The thing that would make it Yardley having some input, because yes, you're right, the coloring would be obviously he would draw the leg, like for example, if you look at the Paris page, you have Jet's leg, and he would put like sketchy lines, right? So that would be where he's emulating the style. And also like the thick outlines, I would say. But that might be the inker. So
that's fair. But yeah, no, it looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Sonic fights the Babylon Rogues. And it's interesting. So it starts with the Babylon Rogues like running from Eggman. Or it's just Jet actually.
It's just Jet. He's just stealing shit from Eggman.
And then it turns out that Eggman hired them? Question mark?
No, what happens is he's like, oh, this hoverboard's fucking cool. Anyway, I'm gonna kill you. You're about as fast as Sonic. And Jet's like, that sounds fucking stupid. Who's the Sonic guy? And so he's like, oh, since you don't like Sonic, you can work for me. Here you go. So that was the deal. He's like, well, you know what? You're someone who wants to beat the shit out of Sonic. I like your jip. Here you go. Because obviously Eggman, he could just do whatever he wants. By the way, I only noticed this recently reading it. I love that Eggman is trying to balance on the board.
Oh yeah,
he starts playing with it.
Yeah. But so, they attack Sonic. They beat him up, and then that takes us into the second part of that story, which I love. It's right after, what's his fucking name? Horseman. I don't know. Dies, and they're like sad at his funeral. They're like, okay, but kids, like, you really need to go buy Sonic Riders. Then Sonic's like goes to Tails and Knuckles, and it's like, it's weird. We very rarely see that this version of Sonic get like this punked out by this punked out by the fucking Babylon Rogues. Like where he's just like, man, their hoverboards were so cool. I was no match for them.
Yeah, and then Knuckles is like, they flew on airboards that were really fast.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's interesting, but yeah. So like, Tails is like, hey, I've got airboards too, and so let's all go ride airboards.
Yeah, and I like the in-universe reason for it, which like it makes sense. Which is like, yeah, if like we ever have to go on missions where like we need to like some of us need to keep up with you, like we can use these airboards, which they do use eventually, and they definitely use those in Reboot. Definitely seems like Flynn wanted to use that a lot more. And then I just think it's cute that Tails is like, I made you one if you wanted to, just for fun. Those are just like fun little details I enjoy. Where it could have just been like, oh, I bought these for missions or whatever. And then like he could have been like, I also brought you one in case like you needed to use it. But no, he changes it to, I made you one in case you wanted to ride one too. He's all excited about it.
It's so weird how like cool Sonic. I mean, obviously this doesn't count because it's a fucking commercial. But like generally speaking, like Tails and Sonic are like pretty cool with each other throughout like this whole like 5 issues.
Well, this is canon. This story is.
No, I know this story is canon, but like it's canon, but it's not like I'm gonna be like, why is is the ongoing drama, like love triangle of Fiona getting between Sonic and Tails not being addressed here. You know, like.
Well, yeah, because as you saw in like the birthday one, Tails doesn't hate Sonic. He still does care about him, obviously.
Oh, sure. It's interesting going from like the last time we saw Tails interact with Sonic in any way, it was him crying as he watched Sonic walk off with Fiona.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's actually a cute bit in I think it's the first issue of this arc where Merlin goes like, "Oh, the chosen one, you know, like he beat Mogul and he sucked him into this Chaos Emerald," and like Sonic and Tails like fist bump in the background.
Yeah, well, and what's also cute about that is, if you remember, Sonic doesn't remember that, so he thinks that Merlin is talking about when they beat Mogul at a different time. And if you notice, Merlin is winking at Tails because only Tails and him remember when that happened.
Oh, I tried to forget most of that story.
It's so dense, dude. That whole story.
Yeah, that. Oh God.
Even winking has lore.
Yep.
But yeah, they'll come in.
They're fighting right on hoverboards. I love. Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
No, you go. No, you go ahead. I cut you off.
So I love how it ends with "Who wins the ultimate race? Play Sonic Riders on your favorite console to find out." As if this has any fucking thing to do with Sonic Riders.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. Going forward, they do one for Rush Adventure that's canon. But eventually they just start being like, all right, you know, this happened at a different time and place, whatever. But I am really glad this one did, just because like I just really like this B story and I just like that it matters. It's canon, you know.
Oh, yeah. Well, and you know, the Babylon Rogues have to come back for like one of the best Archie Sonic stories ever.
Yes.
Later on. So yeah, so yeah, it's cool. It's a fun story. It's just I just imagine being like a 7-year-old like reading this. Well, first of all, being a 7-year-old reading this would already be a nightmare because of the A story. But I just imagine like you're reading this like, oh man, Jet the Hawk and Sonic are like racing in a forest because like Jet's working for Eggman, and then like you go to like the actual Sonic Riders game, and just none of it's nothing like this. I just think that's
funny. No, it's good. Oh, by the way, so this is like insane like world building stuff. So if you remember, later, or like I think you know about this. So you know like the Battlebird Armada, right?
Yes, I did not read that story though.
Right, but you know they exist.
Yes.
And then in Treasure Team Tango, which you said you've read,
yeah, it's
in that story. In that story, they talk about how like Bean is from the Armada and Jet left the Armada, right? Yes. So like Jet is part of the Battlebird Armada. He left it. That's why the Babylon Rogues, all that stuff. Okay. So Flynn set that up, which mind you is going to be like 30 to 40 to like, yeah, about like 30 to 40 issues from now, which would have been like years. He set that up in this issue because offhandedly Jet says to Eggman, "Times have been tough since I left the Armada."
Wait, does Jet talk to Eggman?
Yeah, and whenever he captures him.
Hold on.
This is in issue 163.
Do I have like an incomplete version? In my version, it cuts right from Jet being carried off by the big one with the hammer to Sonic's running through the forest.
Oh, you're missing a page, dude.
I'm missing a page?
Yeah.
Do you have it? Can you send it to me?
Send it on Twitter. Yeah, because that's where the scene of Eggman balancing on the thing is.
I thought you meant this bit where they're like hanging off thing. I was a little confused by that. I thought you meant
Here you go.
Hold on.
I'll send this to you. Yeah, you can't trust readcomics.com or whatever you're using. Your perfectly legal site.
Yeah, my comic shop that I found all these at legitimately.
There you go.
Sold me a bum version. All right, so you could steal my vapor accelerator, did you?
Yeah, that's why you were confused why they were working for him. I was like, what do you mean? He explains it.
You plan to upgrade your airboard. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
fun.
Yeah. So they set up one that he's part of the Armada in this offhand line, and two, you get the funny little thing of Eggman on the board.
Man, so I get fucking the Justice League popsicle ad is in here, but they couldn't think to add the fucking page.
Well, you're lucky that in your Sonic birthday bash that they had the scene where like Sonic and Scourge and Shadow are like fighting him or whatever, because like some of those like pages are often missing.
Wow.
But that doesn't happen going forward. Usually there's I know there's like one B story that's not on there, and I'll let you know when that we get there. But either way, hey, I think that's the end of Darkest Storm.
No, God, what is this fucking? What's Heroescape? Have you ever heard of this? There's
No.
like 12 pages in the middle of this comic dedicated to fucking Heroescape.
Heroescape. Oh, was it good?
It's like a
Like
comic. There's like a soldier. He's got a sword.
It is a turn-based miniature war gaming system, so it's like a board game,
It
like
looks.
one of the war board games. They made a comic for it to sell it.
Yeah, they made a comic in the middle of another comic.
Well, eventually you're gonna get to where, like, for issues upon issues, it's like, oh, you're reading the Sonic comic, and it's like, by the way, guys, go watch Teen Titans, and it's like literally like 7 pages of like a Teen Titans comic. And it's like, why is this here?
Yeah. I've run into some Teen Titans ads. No comics quite yet, but
it is very funny when it's like, by the way, guys, Avatar: The Last Airbender is a show that is coming out. That might be good.
Yeah, and it'll get a live action reboot later.
We'll talk. Maybe we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So then there's a horseman sacrifice himself. You gotta love how like he gets like 2 full pages of just him. Or not 3 pages
Fighting Mogul,
being a badass and fighting Mogul and like sacrificing himself. It's really cool.
And then Eggman he says, "Hey, die."
And then he goes so Sonic yoinks the crown off of Mogul's head, and he goes, and Elias goes, "Thank you, Sonic. My birthright should purge it of Mogul's taint."
Yeah, we're children. It makes me laugh.
Hey, I don't care who you are. That's funny. But and then the horseman says, "I say thee nay." That's pretty funny.
Yeah, the way I read it is, "I smite thee." Like a horse.
That's great. But yeah, so then Eggman comes down the Egg Hawk, and again, it's just interesting because it's like, yeah, that was again, this was in a game from 2 years ago. Like this, like, it's weird to think about because it's like I generally think of like the Archie Sonic stories because they're so removed from the games being fairly contemporary.
Yes,
You know, like even like when Silver shows up, I don't think of it as like, oh yeah, Silver's here because he was in Sonic 06 and we needed to, well, partially because he shows up like 4 years after Sonic 06.
Yes,
but also like I think of it as like, oh yeah, we have a new character Silver here who like is showing up for his own plot reasons, and I don't know, it's interesting, especially since again like Ian Flynn clearly has a bit more reverence for the games than Penders did, and by that I mean any reverence. So it's just interesting. And there's, oh my god, there's an amazing scene where Eggman, first of all, it's drawn great where they're like facing off against each other, and Eggman goes like, "If I wanted to, I could wipe you all off the map." And then Sonic goes, "No need to be shy, let's go, Eggman." And I would love if like Mighty or someone was like, "Sonic, shut the fuck up. What are you doing? don't provoke him."
Don't provoke him. Yeah, especially since he's gonna back it up later.
Yeah.
And again, I love that at the beginning of Flynn's run, he does establish like, yeah, like he literally says like, I could wipe you off the map anytime. And it's kind of interesting too, because like obviously he's had like an army and stuff this whole time, and our heroes have been doing just fine. So it actually does make sense that they're just like, yeah, we'll be fine. Like we'll take him down. Like they don't really perceive how big of a deal it is that he could just fly over and nuke us, because he just hasn't been doing that. So
I know, but I would just love if someone was just like, "Sonic, he's got all the guns pointed at us. Would you please shut up?"
Just strangle him.
It's like that fucking SpongeBob bit where he's like, "You have 10 days to do this." He's like, "Make it 5," and like they tackle him. Like they all. Sonic's like, "All right, Eggman, you gotta shoot at us with all your guns. Let's go." Like the Chaotix just dogpile him. And then yeah, and then they have a funeral for the horseman, and Elias is like, "You know what? For the horseman, we're gonna keep doing the kingdom good." And then it's interesting. They reveal like, "Hey, Adam does the whole like, 'Hey, I'm anonymous' thing," but for some reason he looks like original Robotnik. And
yeah, that's
in my
little avatar, I guess.
Yeah, well, because like in my brain, I had remembered these two things differently. I had remembered like or I think I had just remembered this, but that it was anonymous going like, "Oh well, Eggman, you don't realize that like I'm super cool and evil." But I didn't remember that this was where we reveal that it's Adam. So in my brain, I remember them going like, "Oh yeah, this is the fake out where it looks like Eggman, but actually it's Tommy Turtle, and they have like the same like shape or whatever."
Yeah. So this is
But-
weird because for the rumor online was always that originally Flynn wanted to have the original Robotnik return. And it was going to be that Adam was actually like the original Robotnik's like brain downloaded into a computer, and it just like slowly evolved basically from like a computer virus. And then Sega said like, no, we don't want two Robotniks, so just keep the one. And then he haphazardly like turned it into Adam. And it kind of feels like the case when you see like that image, you see like the little design. And so I just always assumed that was true. But I actually just asked Ian Flynn. I said like, hey, were you always planning this or whatever? He's like, yeah, no, the reason he looks like Robotnik is just simply that in one of the B stories, they say like, oh, he's about my height or whatever. And like, he kind of has like a rounder shape or whatever. So the idea was just simply to be that like, yeah, the idea was supposed to be that he was like, Adam was using kind of the visage of like the old Robotnik as like his avatar, basically. So yeah.
Which I will say, it being Adam is a much better idea.
Yeah,
Like-
because the reason you don't want it to be the original Robotnik is one, it just removes all the like satisfaction of him being dead, and two, like I just like it makes way more sense that just a computer, it's doing all these programs, was smart enough to come up with this whole plan to like have like the ancient walkers destroyed and all that stuff. That makes way more sense that it's just like an algorithm than like the original Robotnik, who, mind you, drank like 10W40 oil and like got beaten by like it wouldn't make any sense that like that Robotnik is this clever, because all of it feels very like artificial. So I think it was a good idea to, whether it was intentional or not, to make it Adam.
Yeah. Well, and I think just like, what do you do? So, okay, let's say it's original Robotnik. You bring original Robotnik back. Either, then you're in a no-win situation. Either you have to pants current Robotnik to like make this one look cool and interesting and bring him back, or you have to have the current Robotnik win and like get rid of him. And then it's like, I guess we already kind of did that story, didn't we? Like,
yes,
with in that gag issue from like, not like gags in like the gag era, but like a gags and like a funny haha from like sometime in the early hundreds, where they brought back original Robotnik for a joke. But like, I feel like with that you could look at it and go like, yeah, whatever. Oh, did you know they brought back original Robotnik? Kind of, but like whatever. Like we can ignore that. Whereas with this, it's like you have to have one of them win, and whichever one wins, then suddenly it's like, oh, so the guy who like we built up to be a threat and like fought Sonic and had all these stories with, I guess he's just like a loser.
Yes,
like,
exactly. Yeah, it's just definitely good that it worked out this way.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think that's all, folks. Yeah, I don't know. Like Darkest Storm, here's the thing. Darkest Storm is not bad. And I think if I had read all the shit, well, and here's the thing, like I'd read some of it and I absorbed a decent amount of it through osmosis from you. And even then, like it's a lot. Like
That's fair.
But it's not bad. Like if nothing else, like it's very pretty. There's a lot cool stuff to look at. Like I said, they give the horseman a good send off. They give a lot of things a good send off. Like, I think this is really again, this is the cleaning house arc. And on the one hand, I'm like, it was a lot. You were cleaning a lot of house, my guy. Like you could have spread out some of the. You ever heard about compartmentalizing? Like, but on the other hand, it's like, well, but now we get to the fun.
Now it's done and we're good.
Yeah. So,
and again, this is a monthly comic, so that's like 3 months. So like, imagine like this went longer.
Yeah. So it's fun. But when we return, we will be talking about a random issue where they interrogate Rouge, but also we're back to 25 years later.
Yes.
Oh.
And so that this conversation doesn't go for like 5 minutes because it's relatively short. How would you feel about also including 30 years later, which is the Sonic Universe arc that takes place directly like in this timeline? It has like one connection to the original Archie storyline, which is that Silver shows up. So hey, that's the perfect reason to read it.
Do you not think we would have enough to chew on with like 25 years later with like the backups and
well, okay, that's true. There's the backups. Yeah, that's true. Okay, then yeah, that's fine. I was gonna say, because if it was just the main stories, that would make sense. But no, there will definitely be enough for the backup. So yeah, next time we'll have 165, you said? And
165 through 167.
Yeah.
And
I forgot about the B stories. You're right.
Yeah, so and then what's after? Is that, and after that's Order from Chaos, right? That's with Yeah, so that'll be cool.
Well, there's Order
And
for Chaos, and then there's an Aftermath issue, so we can read those 3.
yeah,
And we can
so
probably just throw in Shadow because there's like a Shadow issue.
yeah, I'm thinking from here on we'll probably just go based on how they group them in the Sonic Saga books, just because that's convenient. But yeah, so we're in it, folks. We're in it to win it with the Flynn's Archie Sonic. It's nice to be here. We'll don't worry, we'll still do our throwback episodes. We probably won't do one for a couple though. Mainly because we need to figure out what the next one will be. And also because we just want to enjoy being into Flynn's Archie Sonic for a bit. But thank you all for listening, as usual. The show, okay, I'm gonna say a thing so that way I'm locked into having to do it. The show's gonna be on Spotify. I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna buck. I've been saying literally since we started the show, like, yeah, I'm gonna put us on Spotify or on like podcasts or whatever, because like you know the places people actually listen to podcasts, those places. And I just haven't done it. So I'm saying it now. I'm gonna do it because I think like, okay, we're in a new era of the comic. We've got like a decent stretch of the road to go. I'm not getting to like fucking like I don't know like Mecha Sally and go like, don't worry guys, we're definitely gonna put it on Spotify. Like no, I'm just gonna start doing it. So yeah, look. So if you like to listen to your podcast on Spotify, by now we have another episode. We have another episode in the backlog before this one goes out. So hopefully I should have that. So hopefully it should be up by now. I don't know. Fuck whatever. Ian, plug your shit.
My name's Ian Waffles. You can find me on Twitter and YouTube by the same name. And yeah, thanks for having me as usual. I'm very excited to finally be into the Flynn era.
Yep, and I am Silveracer1. You can find me on Twitter at Silveracer1. I'm here as the Silveracer1. And bye.
Bye.